The town of Clearwater sat in a valley where 3 rivers met, which made it valuable enough to fight over, but remote enough that most people forgot it existed. Sheriff Daniel Moss had kept the peace there for 7 years, not through violence, but through an understanding that everyone in town had secrets they wanted buried, and he was the man who kept them that way. He was tall and lean with gray starting to show in his dark hair and hands that rarely touched his gun. Most problems he solved with words. The ones he couldn't solve with words he solved by being the kind of man people didn't want to cross twice. On the morning it all started, a rider came into town, moving fast enough to kick up dust, but not so fast it looked like panic. He stopped outside the sheriff's office and dismounted with the stiff movements of someone who'd been in the saddle too long. Daniel was sitting on the porch drinking coffee when the man approached. "Said there's a Cheyenne warrior camped at the North Pass," the rider said. "Been there 2 days. Hasn't bothered anyone, but folks are getting nervous." Daniel set down his coffee. "He armed? Got a rifle, bow, knife. The usual, but like I said, he hasn't done anything. Just sitting there watching the road." "Why is he watching the road?" "Don't know. Don't speak Cheyenne." The rider spat into the dirt. "But people are saying we should run him off before he brings trouble." Daniel stood and stretched, feeling his back pop. "I'll go talk to him." "You gonna arrest him?" "If he's broken a law." "Yeah? If he hasn't?" "No." The rider looked dissatisfied but didn't argue. Daniel went inside, strapped on his gun belt, and saddled his horse. He rode north out of town, following the main road until it started to climb into the hills. The North Pass was a narrow gap between 2 rock faces where the road squeezed down to barely wide enough for a wagon. It was the only route into Clearwater from the Northern Territories, which made it strategic and dangerous in equal measure. The warrior was exactly where the rider said he'd be, sitting on a flat rock overlooking the pass, with his horse grazing nearby. He was young, maybe 25, with long black hair tied back and the kind of build that came from a lifetime of hard living. His rifle leaned against the rock within easy reach. When Daniel approached, the warrior didn't move, didn't reach for his weapon, just watched him come with dark eyes that gave nothing away. Daniel stopped his horse 20 feet back and dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. He walked forward until he was close enough to talk without shouting. "You speak English?" The warrior nodded once. "Some." Daniel gestured at the rock. "Mind if I ask what you're doing here?" "Waiting. For what?" "Someone." The warrior's English was accented but clear. "Someone who come this way." Daniel considered that. "Does someone have a name?" The warrior's jaw tightened. "My sister. She was taken." "Taken by who?" "White men. Traders. They come to our village, trade whiskey for furs. My sister, she only she drink whiskey, not know what it do. When she'll wake up, she is gone. They take her." Daniel felt his stomach turn. "How long ago?" 6 days. "I track them here. They go into your town." The warrior's eyes locked onto Daniel's. "She's still there." "I know she is. I feel it." Daniel's mind raced. If what the warrior said was true, and he had no reason to think it wasn't, then there were men in Clearwater who'd kidnapped a 15-year-old girl. And if those men found out a Cheyenne warrior was sitting outside town looking for her, they'd either kill him or disappear with the girl before anyone could prove anything. "What's your name?" "Two Hawks." Daniel nodded. "I'm Sheriff Moss. If your sister's in my town, I'll find her. But I need you to come with me." "Not sit out here where everyone can see you." Two Hawks didn't move. "Why?" "I trust you, you white men." "Your people. Take my sister." "Some white men took your sister," Daniel corrected. "I'm the law in Clearwater. My job is to protect people, all people. That includes your sister. And it includes you. Two hawks studied him for a long time, reading his face the way a tracker reads signs. Finally he stood. If you lie, I kill you. Fair enough, Daniel said. But I'm not lying. They rode back to town together, Daniel in front and two hawks behind. People came out of their houses and shops to stare as they passed. Daniel didn't stop, didn't explain, just rode straight to the jail and dismounted. Inside, his deputy Marcus was sitting at the desk cleaning a rifle. He looked up when they entered and his eyes went wide. Daniel, what the hell? This is two hawks, Daniel said. He's going to be staying in one of our cells for a few days. Marcus stood up fast enough to knock his chair back. You're arresting him for what? Protection, Daniel said. He met two hawks' eyes, both his and ours. Two hawks understood. He walked to the cell without being asked and sat down on the cot. Daniel closed the door but didn't lock it. Marcus waited until two hawks were settled before pulling Daniel aside. You mind telling me what's going on? Daniel told him everything in a low voice. About the sister, about the traders, about the danger the hawks was in sitting outside town. When he finished, Marcus looked sick. Jesus, Daniel, if what he says is true, then we've got kidnappers in Clearwater, and I aim to find them. Daniel walked to his desk and pulled out a ledger where he kept records of everyone who came through town. He started going back 6 days, looking for traders, looking for anyone who might fit. Two hawks watched from the cell, silent but alert. Marcus, paste. This is going to get ugly. Already is ugly, Daniel said without looking up. We just didn't know it yet. He found 3 names that matched. Traders who'd come through 6 days ago, stayed 2 nights, then headed south. One of them was a man named Carver, who Daniel had arrested 5 years back for cheating at cards. The other 2 he didn't know. You remember Carver? Daniel asked. Marcus nodded. Means son of a bitch. Thought he left the territory. Apparently he came back. Daniel closed the ledger. He's staying at the boarding house on 2nd Street. I'm going to have a conversation with him. You're going alone. Daniel looked at two hawks. No, I'm taking a witness. He's in a cell, Marcus said. He can walk out anytime he wants, Daniel replied. That cell's just so people don't shoot him on sight. Isn't that right, two hawks? Two hawks nodded slowly. I stay because you ask, not because you make me. See? Daniel strapped on his gun belt properly this time, checking the chamber out of habit. Marcus, you hold down the fort. Anyone asks about our guest, you tell them he's here voluntarily and under my protection, and if they don't like it, then they can take it up with me when I get back. Daniel walked to the cell and opened the door. Two hawks stood and followed him outside. They walked through town together, and Daniel could feel every eye on them. Curtains moved in windows. People crossed the street to avoid getting close. Someone spat on the ground as they passed. Daniel ignored it all. The boarding house was a 2-story building that had seen better days. Daniel knocked on the door and waited. A woman in her 50s answered, saw two hawks, and tried to close the door. Daniel put his boot in the gap. Mrs. Chun, I need to speak with one of your guests, a man named Carver. She looked terrified. Sheriff, I don't want trouble. Neither do I, Daniel said. Just tell me which room. 2nd floor, end of the hall. But he's not alone. Who's with him? 2 other men and a girl. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. The girl? She'll come here willingly. Mrs. Chun's eyes dropped. I don't ask questions, Sheriff. You know that. Maybe you should start, Daniel said. He pushed past her into the house with 2 hawks right behind him. They climbed the stairs slowly, Daniel's hand near his gun. At the end of the hall, he stopped outside the last door and listened. Voices inside, men laughing, and underneath it, something else, crying, soft and hopeless. Two hawks heard it too. His whole body went rigid. Daniel put a hand on his shoulder. Let me handle this. Two hawks' eyes were burning. That's my sister. I know, Daniel said, but if you go in there angry, someone dies. Maybe her. You want that? Two hawks forced himself to breathe. No. Then trust me. Daniel knocked on the door. The voices inside stopped. Who is it? A man called out. Sheriff Moss. Opened up. Long pause. We're busy. Sheriff, come back later. I'm not asking. Carver. Open the door or I kick it down. More silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack and a man peered out. He was in his 40s with thinning hair and the kind of face that looked like it had been punched a lot. When he saw two hawks, his expression changed. The hell is this? This is me asking politely to see the girl you brought into town 6 days ago, Daniel said. We don't have any girl. Try again. Carver's hand moved towards something behind the door. Daniel drew his gun faster, pressing the barrel against Carver's forehead. I said, try again. Carver froze. The door swung open and Daniel could see inside. Two men sitting on chairs with bottles of whiskey. And in the corner, a girl. She was small and dark-haired with bruises on her arms and terror in her eyes. She wore a dress that didn't fit right and her feet were bare. When she saw two hawks, her face crumpled. Brother, she whispered in Cheyenne. Two hawks tried to push past, but Daniel blocked him with his free arm. Not yet. To Carver, he said, you're under arrest for kidnapping. That's a hanging offense. We didn't kidnap anyone, Carver said. She came with us willingly. She's 15, Daniel said. And you got her drunk. That's not willing. That's a crime. The other two men in the room stood up. One of them reached for a gun and Daniel shot him in the shoulder before he could clear leather. The man went down, screaming. The other man raised his hands fast. Two hawks used the distraction to slip past Danya and reach his sister. He knelt beside her and spoke softly in Cheyenne, checking her for injuries. She clung to him, crying. Daniel kept his gun trained on Carver. Marcus is going to love this, he muttered. Then louder, all of you outside now. They marched the three men through town at gunpoint with two hawks carrying his sister. People came out to watch, and Daniel saw the calculation in their eyes. Some looked relieved. Others looked angry. By the time they reached the jail, a crowd had gathered. Marcus met them at the door, took one look at the situation, and started clearing space in the cells. Daniel locked up all three men, then turned to find half the town standing outside his office. A man named Patterson pushed to the front. He owned the general store and thought that gave him authority. Sheriff, what the hell do you think you're doing? My job, Daniel said. Those men kidnapped a child. You're taking the word of a savage over white men. Patterson's face was red. This is going to bring every Cheyenne in the territory down on us. Daniel stepped off the porch and walked right up to Patterson. Let me make something real clear. That girl in there is 15 years old. Those men got her drunk and took her from her family. I don't care what color anyone's skin is. That's a crime, and I'm enforcing the law. But they're traitors. Someone else called out. Important men. They're criminals, Daniel corrected. And they're going to hang for it, the crowd muttered. Daniel could feel it turning ugly. What about him? Patterson pointed at two hawks, who was standing in the jail doorway with his sister. He threatened you, didn't he? Made you do this. Nobody makes me do anything, Daniel said. He came looking for his sister and I helped him find her. That's the whole story. You're going to start a war over this, Patterson said. No, Daniel replied. I'm going to stop one. Because if that warrior had come into town looking for blood instead of justice, a lot of people would be dead right now, including maybe some of you. Think about that before you decide I'm the problem here. The crowd didn't disperse, but they backed off. Daniel returned to the jail and closed the door. Inside, two hawks had given his sister water and wrapped her in a blanket. She'd stopped crying but still looked terrified. Marcus was standing guard over the cells where the three men sat sullen and bleeding. Daniel pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. "That went well," Marcus said sarcastically. "Could have gone worse. Could have gone better too. Patterson's right about one thing. This is going to bring attention." "Let it," Daniel said. He looked at two hawks. "Your sister needs a doctor. There's one in town, but I don't know if he'll come." Two hawks met his eyes. "You protect her? I trust you. Find doctor." Daniel nodded and sent Marcus to fetch Doc Williams. While they waited, he sat with two hawks and the girl whose name he learned was Laughing Brook, though she didn't look like she'd laughed in a long time. She spoke almost no English, but two hawks translated haltingly. She told them how the traders had come with whiskey and trinkets, how they'd been friendly at first, how she'd drunk because the other girls did, and it had made her feel warm and happy, how she'd woken up tied in a wagon miles from home, how they'd done things to her she couldn't say. Two hawks' hands shook as he translated, but his voice stayed steady. When she finished, Daniel stood and walked to the cells. Carver looked up at him with hate in his eyes. "You're a dead man, Sheriff. That savage's people are going to come for you." "Maybe," Daniel said, "but you're going to hang long before that happens. So I guess I'll die with a clear conscience." He turned away before Carver could respond. Doc Williams arrived an hour later, reluctant but professional. He examined Laughing Brook in a private room while two hawks waited outside, looking like he might break down the door any second. When the doctor emerged, his face was grim. "She'll live," he said quietly, "but she's been hurt bad. Those men should hang." "They will," Daniel promised. The doctor left, and Daniel sat down at his desk. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky red. Marcus was watching the street through the window. "We've got a problem," he said. Daniel didn't look up, just one. "There's people gathering at the saloon. A lot of them. Patterson's talking about taking the prisoners." "Over my dead body," Daniel said. "That might be the plan," Marcus replied. He turned from the window. "Daniel, there's maybe 40 men out there. Two of us can't hold them off." "3," two hawks said from across the room. He was checking his rifle. "If they come for prisoners, they come for my sister too. I fight." Daniel appreciated the sentiment, but 3 against 40 was still bad odds. He stood and walked to the gun rack, pulled down 2 shotguns, and started loading them. "Marcus, bar the door. 2 hawks. Get your sister to back room. If shooting starts, you keep her safe." "What about the prisoners?" Marcus asked. "They stay locked up," Daniel said. "We're not giving those men to a mob, even if it costs us our lives." Daniel met his deputy's eyes, especially then, because the day we let a mob decide justice is the day law dies in this territory, and I'm not ready to bury it yet. Marcus swallowed hard, then nodded. He barred the front door and took position at the window with a shotgun. 2 hawks moved his sister to the back and returned with his rifle and bow. Daniel checked his revolver and waited. The mob came an hour after dark. Daniel could hear them before he saw them. Boots on dirt, angry voices, the sound of men working up courage with whiskey and righteousness. They surrounded the jail, torches burning, weapons visible. Patterson stepped forward as their spokesman. "Sheriff Moss, come out and talk." Daniel opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The mob tensed. "I'm listening." "We want those traders," Patterson said. "They're going to trial," Daniel replied. "No trial," another man shouted. We want frontier justice. Frontier justice is what got us into this mess, Daniel said. Those men took a child because they thought they could get away with it, because they thought there was no law out here. You want to prove them right. The traitors are white men, Patarson said. That savage has no rights here. His sister does, Daniel countered. And so do those prisoners. They get a trial. If you want to be on the jury, that's your right, but nobody's taking them from this jail. The mob surged forward. Daniel raised his shotgun. First man through this door dies. I guarantee it. The crowd stopped. Daniel could see them calculating. Who wanted to be first? Who wanted to die for Patterson's pride? The standoff held for a long moment. Then, someone in the back shouted, "There's more coming!" Everyone turned. Daniel looked past the mob and felt his blood run cold. On the hill overlooking town, fires were appearing, 1, then 10, then 100. They spread across the ridgeline like stars coming out, and in the firelight Daniel could see shapes. Warriors on horseback, hundreds of them, maybe 1,000. The mob forgot about the jail. They stared at the hill in growing horror. "Jesus Christ!" someone whispered. Patterson's face went white. 2 hawks appeared beside Daniel on the porch. He looked at the warriors and said something in Cheyenne. One of the fires moved, coming down the hill. As it got closer, Daniel could see it was a torch carried by a rider. The warrior rode straight through the mob, which parted like water. He was older, with white streaks in his hair and scars that told stories of 100 battles. He stopped in front of the jail and looked at 2 hawks. They spoke in Cheyenne, rapid and intense. Then 2 hawks turned to Daniel. "This is Many Horses. He is war chief of our people. He comes for my sister and for justice." Daniel looked up at the warrior. The man's eyes were hard as stone. "Tell him his daughter is safe," Daniel said. "Tell him the men who hurt her are in chains. Tell him they'll hang for what they did." 2 hawks translated. Many Horses listened, then responded. 2 hawks said, "He asks why he should believe you. White Manlaw has never protected Cheyenne before." "Because I gave my word," Daniel said, "and I don't break it." Many Horses studied him for a long time. Then he turned and looked at the mob, at Patterson and the others with their torches and guns. He spoke, and the hawks translated. "He says if anything happens to his daughter or to me, his brother, 1,000 warriors will burn this town until nothing remains but ash and memory. He says he came here ready for war, but you, Sheriff, you give him pause. You protect Cheyenne when your own people want blood. This is new thing." He does not know what to do with new thing. The mob was backing away slowly, realizing how close they'd come to death. Daniel addressed Many Horses directly. "Your daughter needs time to heal. Your brother wants to make sure justice is done. Stay the night. In the morning, we'll hold a trial. Everyone in this town will see those men answer for their crimes. And if trial is lying," Many Horses asked through 2 hawks, "if white men let criminals go free, then I'll hand them to you myself," Daniel said, "and you can do what you want with them." Many Horses considered this. Finally, he nodded. He spoke to his warriors. They began making camp on the hill, fire spreading across the ridgeline. 1,000 warriors settling in to watch and wait. The mob dissolved fast after that. Patterson and his people disappeared into the night, suddenly very interested in being elsewhere. Daniel watched them go, then turned to Many Horses. "There's a room in the back. Your daughter can rest there. 2 hawks will stay with her. You're welcome to come inside." Many Horses shook his head. "I stay with my warriors." but I send guards. Make sure nothing happens in night." Daniel didn't argue. Having Cheyenne guards around the jail might actually prevent more trouble than it caused. As many horses rode back up the hill, Daniel went inside. Marcus was staring out the window at the fires. "There must be 1,000 of them." "At least," Daniel said. He set down his shotgun and collapsed into his chair. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Marcus, you ever think about finding a quieter line of work?" "Every day," the deputy replied. "Why do we keep doing this?" "Because somebody has to," Daniel said. He looked toward the back room where Laughing Brook was sleeping, guarded by her brother. "And sometimes the people who need protecting can't do it themselves." That night passed slowly. Daniel dozed in his chair with his gun across his lap. Marcus took first watch. The prisoners tried to sleep in their cells but kept waking up to stare at the fires on the hill. Carver especially looked terrified. He knew what waited for him if the trial went wrong. In the morning, Daniel woke to find half the town gathered in the street. Not angry this time, just curious and afraid. Word had spread about the 1,000 warriors on the hill. People wanted to know what was going to happen. Daniel stepped onto the porch and addressed the crowd. "We're holding a trial at noon. Everyone's invited to attend. The charges are kidnapping and assault. The defendants are the 3 traitors in my jail. Judge Morrison is riding in from Silver Creek. He'll preside." And the savage, someone called out, "Where does he fit in?" "Two Hogs is a witness," Daniel said. "Same as anyone else. The trial will be fair." The crowd murmured but didn't argue. On the hill, the warriors were visible. In daylight, they sat on their horses in perfect formation, watching. It was the most intimidating thing Daniel had ever seen. Judge Morrison arrived at 11. He was an old man who'd been dispensing justice on the frontier for 30 years. He took one look at the warriors on the hill and whistled low. "You've got yourself a situation here, Sheriff." "That's why we need you," Daniel said. Morrison set up in the church, the only building big enough to hold everyone. By noon, it was packed. Daniel brought the prisoners in chains. 2 Hawks and Laughing Brook sat in the front row. Many horses stood at the back with 20 warriors, arms crossed, silent. The trial lasted 3 hours. Doc Williams testified about Laughing Brook's injuries. Mrs. Chun testified about seeing the men bring her to the boarding house. 2 Hawks testified about tracking them. Daniel testified about what he'd found. The defense was handled by a lawyer from town who clearly didn't want the job. He argued that Laughing Brook had come willingly, that she'd accepted whiskey, that there was no proof of force. Then Daniel called Laughing Brook to testify. She spoke through 2 Hawks translating. She told them everything. The fear in her voice was real. The shame was real. The pain was real. When she finished, the church was silent. Judge Morrison looked at the jury. 12 men from Clearwater. "You've heard the evidence. Deliberate and return your verdict." The jury was out for 15 minutes. When they came back, the foreman stood. "We find the defendants guilty on all charges." The church erupted. Some people cheered. Others looked sick. The prisoners started shouting, claiming it wasn't fair, that they'd been railroaded. Morrison banged his gavel. Silent, he looked at the 3 men. "You've been found guilty of kidnapping and assault. The sentence is death by hanging. Tomorrow at dawn, take them away." Daniel and Marcus led the prisoners back to jail through a crowd that had gone very quiet. On the hill, the warriors hadn't moved. That evening, many horses came down to the jail alone. He spoke with 2 Hawks and Laughing Brook for a long time in their own language. Then he turned to Daniel. "My daughter says you protected her, gave her safety, when your own people wanted to give her nothing. She says you are a good man, even though you are white." This confuses her. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. I just did what was right? Many horses nodded. What is right and what is done are often different things. You choose right even when dangerous. This is why we do not burn your town tonight. Tomorrow, men hang. Tomorrow they hang, Daniel confirmed. Many horses studied him. If I ask you, give them to me instead. Let my warriors have them. What you say? I'd say no, Daniel replied. They got a trial and a sentence. I'll see it through. Even though my way would be worse for them. Worse punishment for worse crime. Even though, Daniel said, because once I start deciding who deserves law and who doesn't, I stop being a lawman. I become something else. Many horses was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're a strange man, Sheriff Moss, but you are honest. We will watch the hanging. See justice done. Then we leave your town in peace. And if we meet again, let's hope it's under better circumstances," Daniel said. Many horses almost smiled. Yes, let us hope. He left. The night passed. At dawn, they built a gallows in the town square. The 3 prisoners were led out before the rising sun. 1,000 warriors watched from the hill. Every person in Clearwater watched from the streets. Daniel read the sentence. The trapdoor opened. Justice fell swift and final. When it was done, many horses raised his hand. The warriors turned as one and rode north, disappearing into the morning light. The town was saved. Two Hawks and Laughing Brook stayed one more day to rest. Before they left, Two Hawks approached Daniel. "You risk much for us." "Why?" "Because it was right," Daniel said. Two Hawks clasped his arm. "If you ever need help, send word. Cheyenne do not forget debts." They rode out to join their people. Daniel watched them go, then turned back to his office. Marcus was waiting. "That really just happened?" he asked. "Yeah," Daniel said. "We just survived a war by doing the right thing." He sat down at his desk and poured coffee. Outside, Clearwater returned to normal, but everyone who'd been there would remember the day 1,000 arrows could have blocked the sun and didn't because one sheriff chose justice over fear. And that was enough.